what Pret and Manger has been hiding in their so-called fresh sandwiches, and the deadly secrets behind their carefully crafted image, will make you think twice before ever walking into one of their stores again. Pret and Manger's fall from grace is staggering. Decades ago, they promised fresh, natural food crafted by real people in local kitchens. Today, their shelves are stocked with factory-made products packed with chemicals. Food safety violations and banned ads reveal a company maintaining a facade of goodness. What was once a place you could trust has become a corporate nightmare, hiding behind artisan packaging. What happened to Pret? How did this brand betray millions and get away with deadly lies? To understand this shocking transformation, we have to go back to where it all started. In 1986, two friends, Julian Metcalfe and Sinclair Beecham, opened the first Pret a Manger shop in London. The concept was simple but revolutionary for its time. Fresh sandwiches made on-site with natural ingredients. No preservatives, no additives. Just good, honest food. The name itself, French for ready to eat, signaled their philosophy. Fast food, but not fast food as you knew it. This wasn't McDonald's. This was food made by real people, in real kitchens, attached to each shop. The branding was genius. Where other chains went for bright plastics and fluorescent lighting, Pret chose exposed brick, dark wood, and industrial chic. The shops felt like artisan bakeries, not corporate outlets. The staff wore aprons, not uniforms. The whole aesthetic whispered care. We care about food the way your grandmother cared about food. That promise defined Pret from day one. They positioned themselves as the antidote to soulless chains. Real bread baked fresh. Fillings chopped by hand. Nothing pre-packaged or frozen. Customers could see the steam rising from the ovens. They could smell the just mixed pesto. It felt alive. It felt trustworthy. In those early years, every location operated like a small craft kitchen. Metcalfe and Beecham insisted on it. No central factories, no supply chain shortcuts. The menu stayed basic: ham and cheese, chicken salad, carrot cake with real cream cheese frosting. Prices were fair, not premium. Lines formed because word spread. This was lunch that didn't feel like a compromise. By the late 1982, Pret had 5 shops across central London. Office workers in the city skipped the golden arches. They craved the chalkboard menus and the clatter of knives on boards. Pret wasn't just selling sandwiches. They were selling a story of purity, in a world of processed junk. That story resonated deeply. People paid a little more because it felt worth it. The packaging was brown paper bags, tied with a string. No plastic wrappers, no glossy logos screaming at you, just quiet confidence in quality. Records from the time show Metcalfe obsessing over details. He tested recipes himself. Beecham handled the vibe, ensuring staff smiled like they meant it. They avoided venture capital early on. Growth was organic, one shop at a time, but even then, seeds of change lurked. London expanded, demand surged. Keeping every promise at scale would test them. The kitchens hummed louder, suppliers multiplied, yet Pret doubled down on the image. Artisan forever. It worked like magic. Pret became a fixture on high streets. The trust they built was ironclad. Customers assumed every bite was safe, every claim true. Behind the scenes, though, something was shifting. As investors circled and growth accelerated, the gap between that pristine image and operational reality began to widen. And it worked. By the early 2000s, Pret a Manger had become a staple across British high streets. Office workers lined up every lunchtime for their egg mayo sandwiches and carrot cake. It was quick, high quality, convenient. Pret shops dotted Victoria Street and Canary Wharf. Queues snaked out the doors from 12 p.m. sharp. Suits grabbed a wrap and a flat white rushing back to desks. The vibe felt effortless. No chaos like Subway, no grease like Greggs. Just polished efficiency wrapped in that artisan glow. Sales climbed steadily, from 5 shops in 1989 to over 100 by 2000. Revenue hit £100 million annually. Investors took notice. Private equity firms smelled opportunity. Growth wasn't just possible, it was demanded. Behind the scenes, though, something was changing. As Pret expanded, investors pushed for more. Bigger margins, new markets, international push. Those core promises of freshness, natural ingredients, and food made with care were becoming harder to keep at scale. Supply chains stretched. Kitchens in every shop meant chaos during peaks. Fresh bread daily, possible at 10 locations. Tricky at 150. Rather than scale back their claims, Pret doubled down. They leaned harder into the handmade story. Billboards screamed freshly made today. Menus bragged no preservatives. The gap between image and reality began to widen. Central depots quietly handled basics like dough and sauces. Shops just assembled. Customers didn't notice. Why would they? The wooden shelves and chalkboards screamed authenticity. Former insiders later recalled the shift. Managers faced quotas. Make 500 units by 10 a.m. No time for perfection. Corners got cut. But the marketing stayed pure. Pret built an empire on that lie. They sold the dream even as operations strained to match it. By 2005, Pret eyed America. Plans for New York. More capital needed. Founders Metcalf and Beecham fielded offers. Steady growth tempted, but the empire beckoned. The pressure mounted. Those promises rang hollower each year. Scaling artisan food invited compromises. Pret chose denial over adjustment. They plastered the fresh narrative everywhere. And eventually, that lie would kill. The first death occurred on July 17, 2016. Heathrow Airport. 15-year-old Natasha Ednan-Laperouse was flying to France with her family for a holiday. Before boarding, they stopped at Pret and Manger. Natasha ordered an artichoke. Her family knew she had severe sesame allergies. They checked the packaging. No allergen information. No warning labels. Nothing. They assumed it was safe. Within minutes of takeoff, Natasha began to feel ill. Her father, Nadim, watched in horror as her face swelled up. She broke out in hives. She told him she couldn't breathe. He grabbed an EpiPen and injected her. Then another. Nothing worked. Her heart stopped on the plane. French medics tried to resuscitate her when they landed. For 5 hours they fought to bring her back, but the sesame seeds baked into that baguette had triggered a catastrophic allergic reaction. At 6 p.m. that evening, Natasha was pronounced dead. But here's the thing that makes this absolutely enraging. Natasha's death was completely preventable. The baguette contained sesame. Pret prepared its food on site. They exploited a legal loophole that exempted them from labelling allergens. The very thing they marketed as their strength, their freshly made food, became a deadly trap. Natasha loved drawing and horses. She was bright, full of life. Her parents, Nadim and Tanya, had done everything right. They always checked. They carried EpiPens everywhere. That one sandwich ended it all. Airport CCTV captured the family laughing moments before. Normal holiday excitement. Then the Pret baguette. Then chaos at 30,000 feet. Paramedics described the scene later. Natasha's throat closed completely. Skin burning red. No pulse despite shocks. 5 hours of desperate revival attempts in a French hospital. Records from the flight log confirm the timeline. Takeoff at 2:15 p.m. Collapse by 2:45. Death at 6. Pret's own policies at the time bragged about no lists needed. Customers could trust their eyes. See fresh prep. Eat safe. That trust killed her. The loophole relied on on-site assembly. No pre-packed rules applied. Pret leaned into it hard. Marketing gold, safety blind spot. Nadim held his daughter as she faded. He knew every second mattered. EpiPens failed because the reaction overwhelmed. Sesame traces invisible without labels. For 2 years, Nadim and Tanya Ednan-Laperouse fought for answers. In September 2018, an inquest revealed the full horror. Pret knew about the risks. They'd received warnings about allergen labelling. They'd even had complaints, but they chose profit over safety. The coroner's verdict was damning. Pret's labelling practices were inadequate. They contributed directly to Natasha's death. The company's response: they were deeply sorry. They would review their practices. Empty words for parents who would never see their daughter again. But wait, it gets worse. Just days after the inquest into Natasha's death, another story broke. December 2017, Bath, England. 42-year-old Celia Marsh had lunch at Pret and Manger. Celia had a severe dairy allergy. She specifically ordered from their vegan range to avoid any risk. The Super Veg Rainbow Flatbread. The packaging said vegan. It said dairy-free. It lied. That flatbread contained dairy protein, contaminated with milk from a yogurt dressing used in other products. Celia collapsed in the shop. She died later that same day. 2 deaths, both preventable, both from Pret's trusted, freshly made food. Natasha in 2016, Celia in 2017. Families shattered by sandwiches sold as safe. Celia was a wife and mother, active in her community. She chose Pret, thinking it was a careful choice. Vegan meant safe. The label promised it. But behind the labels, cross-contamination thrived. Shared prep areas. No separation. The handmade-in shop flex became another hazard. Pret issued another apology. More reviews promised. Families got undisclosed settlements. But the pattern held. Say sorry, tweak slightly, keep selling. These weren't isolated tragedies. They exposed the core rot. Pret ran ad campaigns that same year, boasting natural food. London plastered with fresh promises. In 2016, the same year Natasha died, Pret ran advertising campaigns boasting their good natural food. They plastered London with ads about commitment to fresh, wholesome ingredients. The Advertising Standards Authority received complaints. When they investigated, they found the claims misleading. Pret's lawyers argued semantics. What does natural really mean? What counts as good? But the ASA wasn't buying it. They banned the ads, ordered Pret to be more truthful. Did Pret learn its lesson? Not even close. The company continued pushing the freshly made narrative, even as operations contradicted it. Yes, some assembly happened in shops, but ingredients came from centralized facilities, components mass-produced. The romantic image of a chef lovingly crafting each sandwich was marketing fantasy. Former employees began speaking out online. Blogs like xpret.org compiled their stories. Workers described food sitting out for hours, mold on products, corners cut to meet impossible quotas. One customer claimed they found rat droppings on their sandwich. Another reported expired stock reheated for the lunch rush. Hygiene logs showed violations at multiple locations. The reality behind those rustic wooden shelves? Industrial food production with a handmade sticker slapped on top. Staff turnover spiked. Quotas demanded 200 wraps per hour per person. No time for temperature checks. No breaks to sanitize properly. Managers pressured smiles over safety. Whistleblowers detailed shared cutting boards. Allergen cross-contact ignored. Vegan next to dairy prep. The on-site kitchens became contamination zones. Customer photos surfaced. Green fuzz on bread. Insects in pastry cases. Pret dismissed as isolated incidents. But complaints piled up across 300 plus UK shops. Regulators fined them repeatedly. £20,000 here. £50,000 there, slaps on the wrist. Pret paid. Kept selling. The artisan facade held. This wasn't incompetence. It was systemic. The fresh promise strained under growth. Rather than admit limits, they hid the cracks. To understand how Pret became this, you need to understand who owns it. In 2008, private equity firm Bridgepoint bought a majority stake in Pret Manger for £345 million. Private equity firms have one goal: maximise profit, then sell for more than they paid. They're not in it for the long term. They're not invested in the brand's soul. They want returns. Under Bridgepoint's ownership, Pret underwent rapid expansion. More shops, new countries, aggressive growth targets. The company went from around 200 locations to over 400 in just a few years. Quality became secondary to scale. Kitchens strained. Freshness promises stretched thin. But the marketing never wavered. Artisan image intact. Then in 2018, just months before the Natasha inquest, Jabby Holding Company bought Pret for £1.5 billion. Jab is a German-Brazilian conglomerate. They own Krispy Kreme, Panera Bread, a portfolio of coffee chains. They're the definition of corporate consolidation. Local charm, artisan values, those don't appear on balance sheets. Jab demanded efficiency, cost controls, global standardization. The founders, Metcalfe and Beecham, had long since cashed out. They'd sold their stakes for hundreds of millions. They got rich selling the dream of authenticity to investors who would systematically dismantle it. This is the trap of modern food chains. They build their brand on being different, on being better than soulless corporations. Then they become exactly what they claim to oppose. The wood paneling stays, the rhetoric about caring stays. But behind the scenes, it's just another profit machine cutting every corner it can find. Pret's shop count hit 550 worldwide. Menus standardized. Central factories ramped up. Bread baked off-site. Fillings portioned in bulk. The handmade became hand-assembled from kits. Employee quotas doubled. Staff trained for speed, not safety. Mystery shoppers rated smiles over sanitation. The happy facade masked the grind. Jab's playbook was clear. Squeeze margins. Expand footprint. Exit profitably. Pret fitted perfectly. Natasha's death? Collateral in the numbers game. Founders walked away billionaires. Their vision gutted for spreadsheets. Outrage from those deaths sparked government action. But did real change follow? After Natasha's death sparked national outrage, the British government was forced to act. In October 2021, Natasha's law came into effect. It required full ingredient labelling on all pre-packed food, including those made on premises. Pret announced they would comply. They added allergen labels, trained staff, released statements about commitment to safety, PR crisis managed. But did anything fundamentally change? Former employees suggest the pressure cooker environment remains. The impossible quotas, the cost-cutting, the gap between what the head office promises and what actually happens in shops at 6 a.m. when you are understaffed and behind schedule. One detail haunts. After Celia Marsh's death, tests revealed the dairy contamination in her flatbread wasn't isolated. Multiple samples from that production batch contained milk protein. This wasn't a one-off mistake. This was a systemic failure at the manufacturing level. Pret paid settlements to both families, amounts never disclosed. The Ednan Laperouse family spent their compensation setting up the Natasha Allergy Research Foundation, fighting to prevent other families from their nightmare. Meanwhile, Pret's 2019 accounts revealed they'd set aside £10 million to cover costs related to food allergy scandals. £10 million. That's how much they budgeted for killing customers and managing the fallout. Just another line item in the corporate spreadsheet. Walk into Pret today, everything looks the same. The warm lighting, the wooden shelves, the cheerful staff, the promise of natural, freshly prepared food. But now you know what it costs to build that image. Now you know whose lives were sacrificed to maintain the illusion. That's the real downfall of Pret and Manger. Not financial collapse, not losing market share, but the moral bankruptcy of valuing perception over decency, of letting people die rather than admitting your marketing was dishonest.